Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to this next installment of the live Q&A series. Today's topic is your spiritual path. My name is Lysander Xanthus, and I am a clairvoyant psychic reader and energy healer. So we are going to discuss a few different things today pertaining to the subject. This is meant to be conversational, so at any point feel welcome to comment or ask questions about the topic. Later on, I will be doing mini readings about the overall direction of your path or what your next step is meant to be. Today, I'm going to have my own teacher and mentor drop in to tell you guys a little bit about how to create a foundation for your path and some about what they do. Alright, so I guess I will just go on and jump into the topic. Hello everyone. So, first of all, what is a spiritual path? I feel as though that in some ways that this is obvious, in some ways it's a little less so. A path is just a term for the way that one walks.
Just so you can open that when you get a chance.
Oh, right, I see.
Because I won't be able to set up my computer today.
Sorry. So, a spiritual path is just kind of the way you are choosing to pursue your spirituality, which means a connection to your deeper eternal self, the universe at large. So, the divinity within you and without. There's a lot to explore. So, a path is really just our way of saying of the way you choose to explore and walk forward. I like to keep simple definitions. Hello, welcome. Right. So that is kind of like my simple base thing. That may sound kind of like, well, what about these things? If you have questions about that, ask. Another thing I feel like is related is what is a spiritual awakening? There's a lot, just like there are a lot of ideas out there about what is and isn't a spiritual path and what is or isn't awakening. My definition and thoughts about awakening are pretty simple as well. To me, awakening begins when you start questioning for the first time. So I'm sure all of you can think back to the time, maybe if not the exact moment, the age, when you started thinking about what your place was in the greater scheme of things, or if there is something more out there, if energy was real, if psychic abilities were real, if the gods are real. Just questioning your reality and your place in it and who you are. The moment you started questioning the first time is when your awakening began. And awakening is a continuous process. I find it's not a one-time event. You can have moments of very strong epiphanies and openings, but it is a journey of greater awakening and awareness. And the spiritual path is led by questioning, at least so I have found. In the beginning, there's this wonderful thing called the beginner's mind where you're just open and you don't have any preconceived ideas. And somehow that can be very liberating and actually open more to you when you don't have a box or standard you're working within. You can really have some wonderful experiences as you explore energy or psychic abilities or your path. What's within you and everything outside when you don't have set ideas of how things are supposed to be or how they work. So questioning is really a wonderful thing. Just question everything, even if it seems like an established idea. So questioning is important. And other thing is your true path is unique to you. another thing that is simple but self-evident. Um, so everyone's path is their own, completely unique unto themselves. There are established and existing paths, like through various religions, spiritual practices, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. They are all excellent guidelines, and I think it's more helpful to think of them as guidelines, but don't try to fit yourself into a set path. I find that there are existing paths, and when one is exploring, it's helpful to go down them or use them as guidelines, but ultimately, although you're going in the same direction as that path, you will make your own way. I feel as though it is a mistake to feel like your path is wrong or what you're doing is wrong or there's something deficient in you just because what's happening with you, your experience doesn't match what has been established in set paths, other people's practices, the ideas that are out there about how a spiritual path is supposed to be or how an awakening is supposed to be. Because we are all unique, I think it would be a great tragedy to think that you're doing it wrong or it's not in you to pursue a spiritual path because you're not fitting a box, per se. A really important concept in exploring your own spiritual path going forward and kind of finding your way through all the information that's out there and all the teachers that are out there and finding your way through all the established ideas and pathways and figuring out what's right for you is the idea of ringing true, connecting to your own deeper sense of instinct and when something's right, it really deeply feels true in one's gut. It's a little difficult to articulate. So that is kind of an important thing to tune into and lean upon when you're exploring. So yes. Just a moment. I had a thought and then it ran away. So I was going to talk about this later, but I think I'll talk about it now. How to tune into your own instinct / ringing true / guidance.
Are you on the watch party also?
A little bit.
Okay. Just let me know. We just wanted to know.
Okay, I see. I have to actually scroll down to see the comments. I thought there's only a few. Sorry.
Yep. People have been talking. I just wanted to make sure you saw.
Okay, so we have some comments on one of the watch parties. So Bryant Big G says, what is the meaning of life? Well, that is a big question, isn't it?
It's different for everyone.
Just like the spiritual path, it is different for everyone. That may seem like a simplistic answer, but it is true. Meaning is something you have to derive for yourself. As far as like the meaning of life, a life kind of exists for its own sake. And we all are on our own path, whether we know it or discover it or not. And we're on our way to grow or find something. Everyone's different, so not everyone has the same goal that they're after on a deeper level. So unfortunately, it is something that you have to discover on your own. Patrick Fabian Lange says, what do you think about the Syrian and Palladian? They are actually on Earth. What do I think of them? Well, I don't suppose that I have much of an opinion or thoughts about them. I feel as though there are certainly souls originating from there, and I've had the pleasure of knowing one or two. Whether or not you personally ascribe to that world, to that view, is completely up to each person, deciding for themselves if that is. Karina Igra says, I believe the meaning of life is love. I think it is an important part. And I find that for most of us that will be the case, though not for everyone. On the main video, High Love has been commenting, and I would say yes, you are quite correct. Sometimes we are here to learn things. There are other things that are sometimes going on with us, not just things we're trying to learn. The spiritual world is incredibly vast and complex, and the possibilities of what is going on with each individual person is quite endless. So that's why I think, most of all, it is a tremendous mistake to define it too greatly. I think that's mostly the point of why I wanted to talk about this, is to say how much of it is undefined and is unique to each person, and that there is no one right way. Ultimately, the number one thing you have to guide you is your own sense of that ringing true, your own sense of this is right. Even if I don't understand how it's right or how that information integrates with what I know about myself and my life, this is truth somehow. Yes, very complex. So earlier I was mentioning that beginner's mind, and our spiritual path is led by questioning. It's one of the most, for me, has been one of the most instrumental things, is just being open and not saying, oh, this can't exist. Because when you say have too many firm ideas, you can actually become blind to parts, things that are in energy or that are out in reality, because you've already told yourself, oh, that doesn't exist. So I don't like to have too many strong ideas. All ideas I do have are based on direct experience. So I encourage you to discover the spiritual world for yourself and discover you for yourself and your path for yourself. Well, my perspective is a little different. High Love says everything was simple until we made it complex, maybe from disagreements. That's not really, it's just like the way the universe has developed. It's everything has its own kind of structure, and it is the universe is very abundant. We hear this, but it's like quite literal how the universe kind of propagates from itself endlessly. So, there's the universe, and then the planets, or titans, or elementals, or however you like to look at them, and then like gods and angels, and then lesser, a bit smaller and more complex as you go down, and then us, and microbes, and everything that exists, and lots more. And it's just life is geared towards abundance and diversity. So that's why it's so complex, and there's just so much out there. There's never, expansions, emanations. The source emanates itself continuously, and it's just thousands of more expressions of itself. Oh, wait, on the watch pray some more. Regwen Quill Elect, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Then that is your name. How do you forget? I'm not sure what you mean by how do you forget. Bryant Big G says, out of curiosity, what is the purpose of a disability? Do we keep pushing or accept our flaws? I appreciate your question. It is complex. My personal views do differ from a lot of mainstream New Age thought in some prominent ways. So I'd like to say that first. So just because this is my opinion doesn't make it mean it has to be your truth. So I still encourage you to explore for yourself. Um, I don't know that we come here with our lives completely planned to learn specific things and arrange things to that purpose. Honestly, I don't believe that. That's just me. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. So to me, when someone has a disability, other physical condition, I ascribe to like the mind body connection. So I would say that the disability possibly kind of depends on this, not just the current person you're incarnated as, but the soul as well. Um, Possible connections to emotions, mental states, beliefs that could have created that. Um, so it's not that it has a purpose for per se. It's more like it's a result, in my eyes. Sometimes we create conditions or disabilities to fill a need. They're not always positive needs, though. Like, for example, if we're unable to say no to people, we might become ill because the illness says no for us. We can't do anything. We're sick. Um, Sometimes it is fulfilling other things like being able to avoid something or to protect ourselves from our anger. We're too ill to actually physically act out our anger and hurt other people. There's a lot of different things like that. Sometimes I found it relates to things in past lives or some crazy things. It could be a curse. It could be something from a deity. It could be I mean, really, the possibilities are endless. I wouldn't know for sure without reading a specific individual. It's just kind of a short answer. Do we keep pushing or accept our flaws? I feel you need to decide what's right for you. I feel as though you should not feel guilty or ashamed or blame yourself for the condition. I think that is something that is in you. I would probably say to continue to heal yourself and dig deeper for your own answers, and you may be able to overcome it more than you think. I don't like to promise specific physical results, but I do know that the body is incredible and that there's a lot of mystery in life, so you may get further than you think. You may get more out of life. Life could just be more fulfilling.
And you have personally known people who have overcome significant disabilities by applying themselves.
So I would fight. Bryant Big G says, I like your perspective on life. Basically, we shall continue to improve ourselves. Indeed. So, yes, admittedly, it is not my personal belief. It's very common. You know, before you incarnate, you plan out your whole life and make contracts with other souls to have certain conditions. Honestly, I don't. It's not part of my worldview. If it's part of yours, that's totally fine. But my perspective comes from that. Alright, checking comments on the main video. Yes, there's infinite number of possibilities. Yes, indeed. Alright. Are you ready? So kinda.
So,
Alright everyone, I would like to introduce you to my personal mentor and teacher. This is the person who taught me everything I know and who created the foundation of my own spiritual path. Surprise! It's my fiance. I mean, we weren't engaged when we met, and when she was my teacher, it just kind of happened that way. So, sorry, let me move the camera.
it just occurred to me we could have set up the other camera.
Oh, well, it's fine. So, this is Eliza Nanos, aka the Kitchen Witch, and also an incredibly powerful everything medium, prophetess, psychic, energy healer, witch, etc. So everything that I can do, it began with her teachings. All right.
What?
What did you want to share with us today? Oh,
I thought I was just here to generally answer questions and do the things.
okay, great. So, she will also be here answering questions as well. I was just thinking perhaps you'd like to share a little bit about creating a foundation for one's spiritual path. Or the best way to go forward, especially if you're beginning or even if you're not beginning.
So, the best way to start on a spiritual path is to start with the self. My cardinal rule is that you can't develop your abilities, control your abilities, expand your mind, or reach out beyond your state if you aren't aware of who you are, not just on a spiritual level, but a psychological level, an emotional level, a physical level. As Lysander was talking about earlier, it's very common for us to emotionally and psychologically affect our bodies, and for those things to affect things like disabilities or create limitations that we didn't know we had. I personally have overcome many disabilities in my life that were very much connected to my emotional states and traumas and experiences that I had had. So knowing yourself, knowing where you're coming from on all levels is really the foundation for expanding your abilities and your world as a whole. And it's also the first step to really understanding your path.
Awesome.
I'm also really uncomfortable in front of the camera using it.
All right. Sorry, I was typing something. Okay.
That's okay.
So I'm going to see if there are new comments. People asking things.
Everybody say hello.
I was just saying hello. Most of you know her.
Namaste.
So just a quick mention. My mentor has decided to take on new students for the first time since she taught me, really.
We had a comment a couple of days ago while we were doing the morning metaphysical report, and someone had mentioned how it would be very beneficial to have a journey or a program or something that kind of outlined, and guided people. So I got thinking about it and created a life coaching program, which that's what I do. I'm a life coach. That's why I'm never in front of the camera. I'm always doing my own thing. So I've created a program that is going to be open to everyone. For those of you who are Patreon members, I will be teaching the first week for free to all of you who have joined the Patreon. I have set up a page that you guys can check out so that you can see what the prices are, what the program includes. But we do have a preview of the program. Right?
Is that what this slide is?
That's what this slide is.
Ta-da!
So this is an outline of that for any of you that might be interested in checking that out. For anyone that would be interested in checking that out. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm mostly just here to take part in the Q&A today.
All right. How about I take you off the hot spot?
That would be great.
Sorry, love.
Scoot you over and I'll sit next to you.
All right. So just a moment while we adjust.
Musical chairs.
I'd like to talk about this just a wee bit more.
Musical chairs. I'll sit on top of them.
So, I'm not sure if this is available on the watch party, but if you go to the main video, there in the description, there are a few links. Someone asked if they could donate there. You can do so through the PayPal link in the description.
And for those of you
And
who
thank you.
don't know how to get to the main video, it's in the upper right-hand corner on that watch party.
Also in the description of the video is the link to our Patreon for Freedom Dream Coaching. So, like she was saying earlier, if you are a patron, you will be taught the first week of Know Thyself for free. And otherwise, the program is available to any serious students. It is not easy. As
No.
someone who has been through the ringer,
It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to challenge your ideas, challenge your your ideas about yourself and the world and the way that you interact with the world, and to really build on a foundation of self-awareness into developing your abilities, into creating a life path.
sorry, I was just looking at things. Yes, so as you can see, it kind of goes up into a branch. So it's a 5-month course. It starts with Know Thyself. Knowing yourself is very important. I can definitely tell you that from experience. And then it's next to learning about the physical self and learning about the world and like skills like using herbs and crystals and exploring the spiritual world and using your knowledge to create spells and spiritual living, how to live your life in a way that's conducive to your spiritual nature, and that is conducive to exploring magic and psychic abilities. Then there's the spiritual self, developing your gifts like clairvoyance, mediumship, and so on, and setting your path, creating your spiritual path for yourself, and setting goals. This is a very goal-oriented course, so it'll help you set goals not just spiritually, but for the rest of your life that are in alignment with spiritual growth. So, yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted to share that tree, that outline, is for those of you who are still taking on, growing spiritually on your own. That's a very good outline on how you can achieve your own spiritual journey if you would like to do that on your own. That little tree right there is kind of setting the roots and up to the fruits, as it were. So that's also there to give you guys a hint of ways that you can kind of embark on that journey for yourselves.
Alrighty, I'm going to bring us back to main screen for quick. Great. So, what do I have to add to that? Alright, it looks like we don't have more. Great. So yes, and it was very interesting going through her notes for the class because it was very nostalgic in a way, because I remember when I learned a lot of these things. It was not easy, but it did provide a strong foundation for exploring like psychic abilities, pursuing magic, and so on, from a stable place, because to be honest, pursuing like psychic abilities, if you are not in a good place psychologically, it actively stimulates and irritates anything that you haven't addressed or healed. It brings it all up. So it's a very good way to pursue spirituality in a safe, stable way.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I know of a lot of people who have kind of gone off the deep end once they hit a certain point in their magical or psychic development, because they hadn't done any of the healing, they hadn't do any of the internal reflection, they just kind of like jumped in. And it's not that they're wrong, it's that, the guidance is just not out there. So that's another reason why I wanted to talk about this a little bit, is the importance of being patient, taking your time, and kind of building yourself up, not just diving into casting magic or utilizing psychic ability, even if you are naturally open. I know it's tempting, it's very exciting, but trust me, I have made the errors, and it will throw you into a tailspin, and you will not be in control. Your psychic ability that you're trying to explore will be in control, and it's not good. It is not good.
It's very important to take the time to get to know yourself on a deeper level, especially if you already have abilities. What if you can't control your abilities?
Excellent
That's
question.
exactly what I was about to talk about. A lot of times when we can't control our abilities, it's because we haven't taken the time to reflect inwardly and work on ourselves. if you don't understand all the nuances of how you function or how you tick as a clock, you can't expect it to tell time properly. And that's exactly what your psychic abilities are. Your psychic abilities are the hands of the clock, and if all of your wiring is mixed up, it's going to jump around all over the place. It's not going to move smoothly in a controlled way. So if you have issues, let's say you're a psychic medium and you deal with PTSD or you deal with some kind of trauma and you haven't taken the time to process that, you're going to attract negative spirits. You're more likely to be possessed, you're more likely to have a hard time, you're more likely to get attacked, because what you don't realize is that you're projecting that illness and that's attracting other entities that are ill. So it's very important, even if you can't overcome all of your, your mental blocks. I personally suffer from PTSD, but I've learned how to block that part of myself when I am speaking to spirits or when I am entering a place that's very high in spirits, so that I am not attracting that. I'm able to separate that part of myself from the parts of me that are doing the spiritual work.
All right. I want to note two things. One, a very important distinction is that Eliza is not like me. She was born naturally gifted, naturally open, so she has been through the struggle of learning about her powers and managing them from childhood onward. I differ in that I decided to explore all of these things as an adult and never had to struggle with them before I was, when I was too young to know how to. So I was not naturally gifted or open. I built the ability. So that's an important distinction. She can definitely help when it comes to like you're open and you just don't know what to do. The other point is this may sound strange or counterintuitive, but when your psychic abilities are out of control, it's because you as a person are out of balance and out of control. So that's why you need to know yourself, not just spiritually, but psychologically, so that you can gain control of yourself, understand how to manage yourself through coping mechanisms and what have you. And even if you just work on that, oddly enough, the psychic abilities will fall into line as your emotions and psychology does.
Mm-hmm. It's very important.
So let's look at the comments. So yes, she says, yes, I went through all that.
Yeah.
Talking about the PTSD and so on. It has stopped the last few years. Wow. She is, what are we here? Spells only work on those still asleep and can be reflected. No, I don't think that reflects my view. That's just my experience differs. Okay, cool.
Here's the other page.
All right.
Normally, I'm the one sitting on the watch party, so.
It doesn't look like we have more comments there. My phone is not over here.
Do
We'll
you
just
need
have
it?
to wait. I just want to look at something, but it's fine.
It's okay. Well, what are we going to talk about next?
Well, so I'm glad we talked a little bit about that. Of course, at any time, if anyone has questions, we'll answer them. But I do have something else I want to talk about.
Over on the watch party, you're asked, what are your spiritual guides?
Oh, very good question. High Love says we are only affected by others if allowed to. Yes, but there are a heck of a lot of caveats to that thought. Alright, so it looks like we have a few questions. Let's answer the one on the watch party first. Alright, so Rommel asks, what are your spiritual guides and how do you communicate with them?
Would you like to go first?
Well,
Because I know you have thoughts.
I have spirit guides, and I hardly ever talk to them at all. I have other entities I turn to for guidance who are not technically my spirit guides, but they kind of serve that function. And they are a collection of deities, mostly, like gods. And I turn to myself most of all. Now, I. Oh. So that's what they are. How do you communicate with them? Well, at first, when I was starting out, I used divination tools like tarot cards. In fact, I had a specific deck that I used for that I still have. Would you mind grabbing that for me? So that was this deck. It is called the Mary L. Tarot. I don't know if they make it anymore. Because it was an independent deck. This is just the deck that worked for me. Obviously, you pick a deck. If you choose to go that route, pick one that calls to you. So that's what I use for actually the majority of my path, because I only started exploring psychic abilities as part of my studies a few years ago. And so I feel like we overthink psychic abilities a lot, because really all I do is I kind of think and project outward and they respond, and I kind of see and hear in my mind's eye. So like kind of like if you imagine it, the difference is between imagining a conversation and it there actually being a conversation is that you can't manipulate a real spiritual conversation. So if you can imagine the appearance of the spirit differently, or make them say things or change what they've said, then there's a chance you're probably imagining it. But if you cannot alter what you are seeing and hearing in your mind's eye, it's probably a real conversation. And really the best way to do it is to just try and to practice. Would you like to?
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Sorry.
Okay. You go off on tangents.
Okay. Okay.
All the spirits are my guide. I think it's very limiting to think that there are only some spirits, some gods, some entities that would be willing to speak to me. I speak to whoever I want to. And I choose who I need guidance from accordingly. I have a few spirits that are always around me, and they inform me of my immediate surroundings if there's a threat or something going on in my vicinity that I am not aware of. But outside of having my guardians, I speak to whomever I wish to.
All right. And now we had some comments on the main video. Let's see. Someone was commenting, I'm intrigued with the tarot cards and picking up on intuitive thoughts follows vibes. Yeah, it is pretty straightforward in a way. We have some comments above. We're going to get to those first. Socrates asks,
Does blocking a specific issue
me
mean...
blocking... Oh my god, the scroll is so annoying.
I know, and it doesn't get me better. I did read the question earlier. I'm not suggesting that I would be working solely logically. It doesn't mean that I'm blocking my emotions and working just logically. There is... As you get to know yourself, you start to recognize, in the case of my PTSD, there are things that trigger it, right? Everyone's emotional state is triggered. We react. Those reactions are what cause us to become depressed or to lash out or handle situations negatively. So what I've learned in knowing myself and working and developing my spiritual abilities is if I enter a building that I perceive as being haunted, I have conscious tools, I have cognitive behavioral tools that I've learned that allow me to process my triggers differently. So if for some reason I am emotionally triggered, I can tell myself, I am safe, nothing, this is not the situation I perceive it to be. I am in control of my surroundings. And that allows me to stay focused so that I can speak to the entities in the space, or I can protect myself from any entities that would be attracted to that negative thought. So it's not necessarily blocking your emotions, it's learning tools that allow you to process what you're experiencing in a positive way so that you're less vulnerable.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is a wonderful thing. Psychology has a place in psychic work and magic.
Yes.
All right, going down. Let's see. Both. Very intrigued with yeah. There are many ways to speak to entities. I guess that's all I have to say. All right. Tarot is magic. Was a doubter until I connected to my first deck. It is pretty incredible. That's a great live Q&A topic because there's such a wealth of information there that I'm not going to go on about. Okay. What is that helps your healing the most? Great question. What is it that helps your healing the most? The genuine desire to be well. That may sound shocking or simplistic, but you'd be surprised how many people actually don't want to be well.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick one thing, the genuine willingness to not be like this anymore and to get better and being willing to do whatever it takes, even if it sucks so bad.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it does sound very simplistic. I really want to be well is actually all the incentive you need, but you have to genuinely, deeply have that desire to be well.
Not have subconscious ulterior motives to be sick or being stuck in your comfort zone, or fear or resentment or bitter that keeps you sick. Basically, it hurts enough to get better.
Yeah.
There's a story of a dog laying on a porch whining real loud and just like whining and whining, and there's two guys sitting on the porch, and one says to the other, "What's wrong with your dog? He's whining a lot." And he's like, "Well, he's laying on a nail." And the first guy goes, "Well, why don't he move?" And the first one's like, "Well, 'cause it don't hurt enough yet." So the dog just sits there and whines about its discomfort, but it doesn't hurt enough to actually get off its butt and move to where it doesn't hurt. So that is pretty much what helps the healing most is, are you sick of being like this enough?
Yeah. It's an interesting perspective, but it makes a big difference.
If you have that, you will figure the rest out. You will find a way.
All right.
All right, going
Comments
down.
are piling up.
I know. I'm sorry, you guys. So I'm going to go down because then that stupid thing will be out of the way. Okay. How do you know who is informing you when you never ask to be informed? Psychically.
Like psychically, spiritually. There are ways that, depending on how much time and energy you want to go into researching all the gods and finding out all of their little idiosyncrasies. I've done it. It's really, really arduous. They have ways of kind of putting out there, "Oh, this is me." But most of the time, if an entity doesn't push its presence, if it doesn't say, "This is who I am," then typically it's not important. The information being given to you is important. Or there's a reason that they're staying quiet. It's very interesting because they're all so different. It's interesting kind of figuring out who is behind all that talking after a while. Took me a while to figure out who was talking in my ear, as it were. But yes, there are ways to tell, but you do have to take the time to kind of study everyone individually and learn what their little quirks are.
Yeah. I'd like to see the comments. There's mostly people reacting and agreeing and so on. I want to check the watch party real quick. You're welcome, Ramel, for your question answered. There's a comment up here. I want to make sure there wasn't a question it. Okay. My daughter is an empath, says Janine, and is learning how to live and understand what she picks up. During my spiritual path, I've been trying to learn all that I can to help her. Ooh, I have a thought. But do you want to answer first?
Go.
So, an important thing about empathy and being psychic and picking up off other people, I've learned something, mostly because I messed up. This is why you should listen and know yourself before you expand your abilities. Okay, so, if you are picking up stuff from other people all the time, the common thought is that other people are intruding on us. And that's why we feel burdened by their energy. But having observed myself and a lot of other people with this issue, what is actually happening is that you are intruding on everyone else. So your energy, the reason you feel everyone's because your energy is like, or like this, like on everyone around you.
The reality is that most empaths are actually touching everyone else. They're not being touched. Empaths are allowing their energy to reach out and touch other people and pick up those things. But if they can learn how to create boundaries and keep their energy to themselves, it is actually the best way to control that empathic ability.
Yes, that is rather the point. So, you're not usually doing it on purpose. Some people are, and that's rude, but most of the time, it's not on purpose. You just don't know. I think it's important to realize that you're the issues that you need to keep your energy in, not that you need to push people out, although that too is important. And you will experience quite a lot of benefit just by controlling yourself. And obviously, I don't expect a child to know that. So I was just saying that because I hope it will help her. She doesn't have to feel everybody. She should be in control of her ability. Your abilities don't need to be in control of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, snap, indeed. Yes, her energy is very strong. That is
Yes.
because she's probably up in your space all the time. Not that she means to be, but it's important. I've talked with a few parents of sensitive children where their children are very sensitive to other people and they get mad at the people around them for thinking or feeling certain things. And I have to tell them, like, you need to tell your child that they're not being fair. Other people are entitled to their privacy, to having their own thoughts and feelings. And if you're intruding on them, then you're the one who's in the wrong. You need to learn to pull in.
And Lysander is telling you this out of personal experience.
Because I have done that. I've been that rude person. So, okay. Yeah. So, a helpful visualization it's very simple. It's not hard to do this. You have to just exert the conscious effort to pull in. Just visualize yourself in like a bubble. This bubble is your aura, obviously, and just kind of saying, I'm here. This is where I am. Other people are out there. Staying here. No one can intrude my space if I don't allow it, and I'm going to stay here.
Yeah. The other analogy I like to use, especially with children, is that you're a little chick and you have an egg. You need to remember to visualize your egg with a little bit of a shell so that it's harder for things to get in and it's harder for you to reach out. It's safer for them, especially if they're going to be anywhere where there are spirits, and it's an easy visualization to tell them, put yourself in the egg. Or something that I did with my youngest brother when his ability started is I got him a golden Easter egg, and I would tell him to close himself into the egg, and I would hand him the two pieces and have him visualize that he was in the middle and close the actual egg. Sometimes having that physical visual and action is enough, and it is very supportive.
Just like we adults need when we use tools in our rituals and spell work.
Mhm.
It's just a way for them to symbolize to themselves. It is important.
They can just keep that egg in their room or in their personal space, or encourage them to have a personal altar where they can support the idea of that golden egg. Just a bit of advice.
Let's see. Samadhi says, I feel like more and more children are empaths and sensitives now. I've been working with young people and children for over 20 years. I think it's just more acceptable. A difference in who's incarnating, where, and so on.
Yes, it's also the kind of world consciousness. The awareness is becoming more open. The vibration is being lifted, and children are being told it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to feel these things. You're not crazy for seeing a ghost.
So the truth is that children, all humans have always been psychic, so you're all psychic. It's just now safe to be.
Yeah, it's becoming safer. And so these kids are not bottling up that ability anymore. They're not feeling like they have to shove it down. They're able to say, oh,
they're not going to be
this.
Ostracized or burned at the stake as a witch for knowing things now. Right. It's safer. You know, it's a bit encouraging to let yourself be.
Yes.
All right, let's see if there's anything on this page. Let's see. Lao says, isn't the bubble an illusion? And isn't reality that we are all connected and others feel as if we are intruding when in reality we're establishing a natural connection that we have lost?
That is one idea. There are many different ideas about how we are interconnected and what the purpose of our interconnectedness is. The thing that we have to remember as individuals is that we are autonomous. Even though we have the ability to connect and reach out to everyone, for us to provide a safer, more enlightened, and more loving path, it's important to remember to protect our own individuality as well. We need to be conscious of what we project and what we share, and ensure that we're not just giving our own negativity and giving our own toxicity to the people around us. The goal should be to elevate yourself to connect with others. It shouldn't be a right to connect with everyone, because you don't know what damage you're doing to the people around you. A lot of us come from families and homes with, you know, mothers and sisters and fathers and people who are incredibly damaging, and they just throw their energy everywhere and they feel connected to everything, and they're just spewing poison, and it has a very negative effect on everyone. So I believe that it should be all of our goals, all of us should have the goal to be interconnected, but also be self-conscious and individual enough to be in control, and when we can't be in control, to pull back and make the choice not to spread our negativity.
Yeah. It is a paradox.
It is.
It is the spiritual foundation of our world to be interdependent and connected with each other, and we need each other for everything to continue. However, we also have this thing called free will and our personal destinies, which means that we were given the gift of being entitled to our own individuality and making decisions for ourselves. And ideally, if everyone followed their soul's true will and path, no one would intrude upon each other.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case. So you absolutely can protect yourself from other people energetically. Perhaps it is an illusion, but I am a fan of practical advice and practical ideas. So even if something isn't necessarily true, all I know is that when I do it, it works and it helps. And sometimes that just has to be good enough. All right. Looks like we are caught up.
Fantastic.
Good. Good. Right. So, looks like we have another one. Let's see. Samadi says, in addition to the elevating of the spiritual universal consciousness, I've been feeling that we are also connecting more intuitively to the divine feminine. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? I think so.
I think
In a
that
sense.
a lot of what we've taken for granted for ever and ever and ever is that women are I had the word in my head a second, an imperative part of reality. Let me fix the camera. How do I do that? There we go. Okay. Women are an imperative part of reality, not just in society, but also energetically. And for centuries, women have been getting squashed, right? We've been considered lesser citizens, we've been considered lesser humans. It's kind of ridiculous. But part of that elevation of the feminine energy is that women are being empowered nowadays. We are taking our own lives into our hands, we're standing up for our rights, we're starting to expand the feminine energy within the world. And what that's doing for not just younger generations, but for men as well, is it's allowing them the ability to connect to the feminine within themselves. It's telling women it's safe to connect with your feminine. It's telling men it's okay to feel that nuance, to have emotions, to be who you want to be. And that comes from an actual material consciousness that's happening in our world, and it's expanding into that spiritual. And I believe that's why we see that increase. Yeah.
It's just like it. There are more psychics because it's safe to be psychic. It's safer to be female or feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, people are. She adds, yes, the long, long line of women healers was cut in some big ways. Patriarchy, colonization, the medicalization of healing, etc. Yes, history is fascinating, isn't it?
History is very, very fascinating.
I feel that finally as a collective we are living it. Sorry for all the caps. Thank you for both your work. You're welcome. And thank you. Great. Check the comments over here. Alright, looks like
We're still good.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Alright, so the last thing I have on my agenda to talk about, again, feel free to continue questioning, is discovering your way, discovering your path. And a part of this is that we are going to do some mini readings and also discuss how to tune into your own instinct / sense of ringing true. Which would you like to do first?
Well, why don't we start by explaining to the people what it means for something to ring true?
Alright, great. And then we'll do readings at the end.
It's one of the most important things to learn is identifying your intuitive sense of truth.
Yes, I'd like to say something before we define it. This is truly important. There have been times in my journey, and there may be times in yours, where you don't know what is true or who to trust, especially like other people or entities, because spirits are just like people. They too can be deceitful, and things cannot be what they seem like. The only thing you truly have to rely on is not your teacher, but your own instinct for what is right. And you can get into all kinds of complicated situations where there is no guidance. There's nothing you can look up. There's no book for the situation you're in. And the cards are not making sense, and you don't even know if you can trust the spirits you're talking to, and the people around you are in emotional crisis. So sometimes that can be all you have. So getting in touch with that before you're in a situation where you need it is a good thing. So, would you like to define it, or? Okay. mean, you're the one who taught me the idea of ringing true first.
Yeah, I taught you things so that you could tell other people things.
So, it's a little hard to articulate. I just was talking about it a little bit earlier. It is a deep sense of truth. And it's not an emotion, and it's not a logical thought, so it doesn't come from your mind or your heart. It comes from a deeper place. I believe the soul sits in the center of the body, and there is a deep sense of rightness. And sometimes you definitely know if it's a sense of right when it goes against what you want emotionally, but it still feels true nonetheless. Yes, figuring out intuition versus ego is hard, but it's like that deeper sense, and just like, it's like you can't manipulate that feeling. You can ignore it. It's very easy to overlook it, because sometimes that sense of truth is like a flicker. For a nanosecond, you'll have a sense of the truth or the answer, and then it's gone. So you really have to be sharp sometimes.
One way that I would describe it is if you've ever been in a situation where you have felt your instinct kick in, you felt that you were in danger in some way. An example is I got mugged once. I won, by the way. Someone tried to mug me once, and my first hint that something was wrong was an instinct, a sense of adrenaline or heatedness that alerted me to the fact that I was being watched. And there is no way to define that feeling. When you feel like you're in danger, you know it. You know there's something wrong, and you're aware of it. That deep sense of intuitive truth is the same way. It's a feeling that you get through your whole body that leads you to say, this is wrong, or this is right. You have a sense of drawing away from things that feel wrong to you. Someone tells you, oh, I have this ghost in my house that is the nicest guy on the planet, and you should totally come talk to him. And you walk into the house and you're like, no, I feel threatened in this environment. My intuition is telling me this is wrong. This spirit should not be here. Or you're looking at crystals and you're drawn to one very specifically, and you think to yourself, this is the ugliest crystal I've ever seen in my life. But intuitively you say, I need this. This is right to me. It's an undeniable, overwhelming sense of what is right and wrong. And it takes time to develop that and make it more identifiable and make it something you can rely on. But it all starts with taking a moment to question what you do, especially spiritually. You know, if you're doing a tarot reading, stop and say, is this right? And look at the cards again. And make sure that it is feeling proper. It is ringing true, feeling right for you. If the spirit or the whatever it is that's controlling those cards is trying to mislead you, you should be able to tell, this reading isn't sitting right with me. It's not, it doesn't feel truthful. It doesn't feel honest. And there are ways to develop it, but the easiest way is to remember to take a moment to reflect before making a decision, especially with anything spiritual. Whether you're reading cards or walking into a house that makes you feel a little iffy, take a moment and ask yourself whether or not this is right for you. And you'll slowly develop that instinct or that intuitive sense, and it'll just come up as needed as you develop it.
Yep, like with all skills and all psychic abilities, it gets stronger the more you try to use it, tune into it, the more you listen to it, the more experience you'll have in identifying it. And sometimes it's really like hitting a wall, where it's just like you can't make yourself do the thing because something feels off about it, or in spite of all evidence, you must do the thing because it is right.
Yeah.
Alright, let's check the watch party. Romel says, would you consider dreams to be a form of guidance since subconscious mind is well connected with the higher realms? How would you decipher dreams? Thank you for answering. Romel, before she answers, if you go to my Facebook page, Lysander Xanthus, or @ Lysander Clairvoyant, use the search bar, live Q&A dreams. We actually have done a live Q&A about dreams and how to interpret them. But
which will give you more information, but I will answer the question briefly. Dream theory is actually something that I've studied not only on a spiritual level, but a psychological one. Some of our dreams are in fact subconscious processing messages and information, where it is psychological or, machinations of your mind processing the day. If you watch too much My Little Pony, you might dream in My Little Pony. It's just what happens sometimes. It's not the gods telling you that My Little Pony is a message from the divine. However, it is possible to receive guidance, and it is possible to receive messages through your dreams. Some of them come from your soul, that deeper sense of self that's harder to speak to, and it's coming forth and telling you what's right and wrong, or giving you some direction or guidance. And in some cases, external entities, deities, spirit guides, whatever it is you believe in and you connect with, could be using those dreams as a means of working with you and guiding you. There are ways to tell the difference between them. Usually if they're completely bananas and they don't make any sense, that's your mind processing things. That's fun. Sometimes when you have dreams that you can actively engage in, so you have a dream that you're in a beautiful place and there's someone from your past and they're speaking to you and you're consciously speaking back. That's you communicating with a spirit guide or receiving guidance, because it's allowing you to interact with it. And a lot of times messages from the soul are in the form of past life memories, things that feel so real to you that when you wake up, you have to kind of second guess where you are. There's a whole realm of possibility in dreams, but that's a little bit of broad explanation. You can look up that Q&A for more information.
I just thought of a way to help connect with your sense of ringing true. Kind of
going back for a minute.
Yeah, going back for a second. So, like a lot of things, it begins with awareness of yourself. It can be, again, simple, but can be surprising how not present we are. So I'd like us all to take a moment to be present.
Wish you weren't jumping topics.
What?
Maybe we're back in the topic.
Oh, well, I just thought of a better way to explain it. I'm sorry. I
That's
can
okay.
not say it.
I was just going to wait and see if there's a follow-up question before moving on.
Alright, well, let's see if there is.
No.
No. Okay. So, just...
Me too.
Alright. So take a moment to be still wherever you are and draw your attention to yourself. Ask yourself, what is it like to be you in this moment? How does your body feel? Can you feel the weight of yourself on whatever surface you're sitting or standing on? What are you feeling right now? What's running through your mind? You don't need to control or push away any thoughts or feelings. The point is awareness. Now, being in yourself, being aware of what it is like to be you right now, you can draw your attention deeper within. So like the center of your chest or torso. And sometimes you can feel a feeling there. When one feels a heartbreak, you tend to feel it not in your actual heart, but in the center of your chest. That same kind of area. Sense how you feel in that inner self. If you prefer to visualize, you could visualize walking downstairs, imagining you're going within into a room, and then ask yourself how it feels there. Now, if you want to tune into your sense of ringing true, you can just keep your awareness there and see if anything turns up, a specific feeling or a thought or urge. In this space, you can think about a specific person, situation. You can ask specific questions and just sense what it's like to be you in the moment and see what you feel. It's important to tune into awareness of yourself before tuning into guidance, so you have a baseline for, this is how I'm doing, and then how do I respond to tuning into a specific inquiry. So, very simple, and you can do that anytime during the day. All right. Claire says, when things are changing or are going to, I have dreams of giving birth. I never feel pain and feel the warm, wet baby, but never see them. That is birth is highly symbolic of something new that is coming to fruition, a new part of yourself or a new thing in life. So that is a very clear correlation for that meaning. So I feel like that's pretty straightforward. I feel I want to see. Yeah. Catherine says, you're welcome.
Fantastic. So what was the last topic? What did you do?
Yeah, we talked about going into ringing true. So now it's just answering any more questions and readings.
Fantastic.
So,
sorry, I got distracted by my neighbors. They have the most beautiful dog, and I just noticed they have a different dog with them.
So, we are going to be doing mini readings. If you would like a reading, comment your favorite color. We will try to read for as many people as we can, but no promises that we'll be able to get to everyone. The topic of the mini reading is, what is the next step on your spiritual path?
I'm going to let you do that. So I'm going to talk about this one more time.
Go ahead.
And then we will take those. We'll give everybody a chance to put their names up and everything, and then I will leave you guys to it.
All right, great.
So I'm going to talk one more time about this. This is my spiritual growth tree. I am going to be starting at the beginning of the year. I will be starting to take students again, and this is the outline for my course in spiritual growth. If anyone is interested, you can go to @FreedomDreamCoaching. I have all the information started up there, or you can contact one of us directly. But I do want to take a moment to point out to everyone that this is my method of teaching, and for those of you that need a little bit of guidance on your personal journey, this outline is a really great way to develop your abilities, starting with the self, learning about the world around you, and growing from there. Is there an age limit? No, there's not. I am willing to work with children, and I do tailor the program to each individual's needs. So it's very easy for me to tailor the program for someone younger, or, whatever the need is. So for those of you that are on your own spiritual journey and you're still embarking on that on your own, here is some advice on how to go about that journey. And for any of you that are interested in finding out about the program and what the costs are going to be and everything, please check out Freedom Dream Coaching, or join us on Patreon, and the first week is going to be free to all of our patrons.
So, yes, that is patreon.com/freedomdreamcoaching. That link is on the screen, as well as the description of the video. I really hope you'll check it out, and we'd love it if you join us.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, everyone. I'm going to go. I'm going to let Lysander do what he does best, and I'm going to do what I do best, which is play with my cats.
All right, love. Well, I actually need a quick break, and I apologize because we're going to go to commercial break.
Commercial break? When we get back from the commercial break, all of you that have commented, we will be doing your mini readings. Woo!
Yeah, so if you sit through this very brief, informative ad, you will get free readings afterward. This reading will be, well, you'll hear all about it. I'll be back in 6.5 minutes. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lysander Xanthus, and I'm here to tell you about my New Year's reading special. This is a tarot reading for your future in the year 2020, and it's going to tell you all about what's ahead for you in the upcoming year. So, this is called the Astrological Wheel Tarot Card Reading, and that is because there are 12 cards which correspond to the 12 areas of life discussed in astrology. So I'm going to tell you what each card means. Each card discusses a different area of your life in the year 2020, as well as gives you a little advice on how to approach your future. So the first card here talks about you, who you will be and become in the year 2020, and the main themes of the year. The next card discusses things of a material matter, your money, possessions, values, and what you value in the year ahead. The third card discusses your mind, intellectual matters, communications with others, and news you may receive. This card discusses your home life, family, and your emotional state and emotional journey through the year. This card discusses your creativity, your passions, children, if you have them, and any short-term romances that you may encounter. This card discusses work, not necessarily career, but work, how you work, and your health, and ideas of service, like what you do for the world. This card pertains to your relationships with everyone generally, but especially those close to you, and how you relate to people, how those interactions go for you throughout the next year. This card discusses marriage, your subconscious, deeper desires, areas of transformation in your life, themes of big changes that occur. This card discusses travel, education, and your personal philosophy and perception, any studies you may be undertaking, or ways that the way you look at things may possibly change your point of view. This card discusses career and your reputation. This card here discusses your social life, your income from your career, and kind of the way you perhaps network or interact with others on a greater scale. This card here can discuss a few different things. Most often it talks about what will be the weakness or issue of the year, what you might be struggling with. It can also discuss help that you receive from others, as well as things pertaining to a spiritual or intuitive nature. So 12 different areas of your life and you, giving you the overview of how your 2020 is going to look, and advising you about each area, as well as telling you how things are going to currently unfold. So this is a special I'm offering. This reading is available from now until January 31st, 2020. So I hope that you will consider it. I'm offering this reading for $50 in USD. So if you are interested, please message me directly and we will discuss setting up an appointment. And I'm available now. So this is a reading I've done for myself for many years and is incredibly helpful and insightful. I look forward to working with you. Oh, one last thing. I am offering, when you do get this reading, you have a choice between two decks. So the deck you see here is called the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck. So you can have your reading done with this deck, or the other choice is the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot, and I'll show you a few of the images so you can get a feel for its mood. They have two distinct voices and personalities, and I feel that having the opportunity to select one deck or the other can kind of give more depending on which one you're drawn to. So when you message me, please let me know which deck you would prefer, or you can leave it up to me which one I'm drawn to. So there is that as well. When you get this reading, I will be sending you a typed copy with photos so that you can refer to it all year long. Looking forward to working with you. My name is Lysander Xanthus. Be blessed. All right, guys, I'm back. Just needed a little bathroom break, and I ate something and got something to drink all in those few minutes. So thanks for your patience. Just figured that is better than staring at my chair for 6 minutes. All right, so let us get on with the readings. If the 2020 reading interests you or anything else, just, message me about that or anything else on your mind. So I'm going to start with the reading request on the watch party, because there's only one, from Rommel. And again, the topic of the mini readings I will be doing for you all is what is the next step on your spiritual path. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to Rommel now and read for him. So, Rommel, connecting to your energy, I'm seeing an image of you setting foot into a small boat and pushing off the shore and sailing forth. So this symbolizes that the next step for you on your path is that it is time to move on from a certain situation or relationship or project or phase of your life, and to head out into the next, into the unknown, and to start exploring. There is an emotional association, so kind of going out and exploring yourself, your inner self, your feelings as well. So that's what I see as next for you. The reading is brief but to the point. So that concludes your next step. Alright, now I will be moving to the requests on the main page, though I will check on the other spaces periodically. Alright, so Janine Rodriguez, Blue. I'm going to connect to your energy next and read for you. I'm just going to go down through the comments and get to as many of you as possible. I shall do my best. Next step on your spiritual path. Connecting to your energy, I see an image of you tearing something apart, and then it's like this book appears and opens before you, and there's like this rush of energy upward. I feel this symbolizes you need to tear up or throw away all of your current preconceptions and ideas and what other people are telling you. That includes me if it doesn't feel like it works for you. And the knowledge you seek and that you need for your own path comes from the earth, from nature. It rises up from your path rises up to meet you. Because I see this book is rising from the ground. So tune into your own instinct, into your own connection with the earth and with nature for that knowledge. And throw the other stuff away. So that's what I see is next for you. Next is Judy Phillips. Next step on your spiritual path. I see an image of you looking out of a window inside of a house, and then it's like the ground moves beneath your feet, pulling you from the window, and you try to run and scramble to get back to staring out of it, but it's carrying you away. What this suggests to me is that there's a current point of view or perspective that you have, a current goal or thing, your way you look out at the world and look at life. And your path in life is trying to take you away from that, to pull you away and out of things. You should allow yourself to go with the flow, to stop fighting the change, the shift. Trying to go back to where you were is futile. You won't be able to get there. So that is your next step, is acceptance, willingness. Let's look at the new comment real quick. You're welcome, Jeannie. What was that? Asan. Next step on your spiritual path. I see an image of you on a golf course, but there's also another image of you holding darts. These are both games. On the golf course, you're standing by the hole and admiring the beauty around you. The darts sit behind your ear. The next step is to appreciate where you are. You're close to the goal, but I think that focus is an issue. You have the ability to hit your target. You just need to know that and be prepared. That time will come, though. It is not yet now. Now is the time to just appreciate where you are and know that that time is coming. Two more comments like that. Hi, welcome, Christina. Let's see. Next is Socrates. Next step on your spiritual path. Interesting. I see you putting on a wolf mask, except it covers like your whole head. So embodying the wolf, I don't usually recall my readings, but I recall wolf showing up in a prior reading. Um, to live in those qualities in that part of yourself, to explore that part of yourself, and to take that animal's wisdom with you. So that is your next step. Next is Claire. Next step on your spiritual path. I see an image of you with like a seeing eye glass or magnifying glass up to your eye, looking at something, at a book. So this is saying that the next step for you is to examine your knowledge, examine ideas, to look deeper at them, to scrutinize them. That is quite a process on its own. Look deeper, question, examine. Next is Samadhi. That's next step on your spiritual journey. I see a man riding up to you on a horse, and he reaches out his hand. You should take it. He appears very bright and ruddy with red hair. The horse is black. I feel as though you have asked for guidance and help is being offered to you. You may not like the form in which it has come, but you should accept it and follow the path being revealed to you. Let's catch up on the comments real quick. You are welcome, everybody. All right, back up to what it was. Joe, Patron. Next step on your spiritual path. Okay, so the image I see for you is this shape rising up through water and rising up, and it is reminiscent of the Lady of the Lake, but it is not the handle pointed out like giving you the sword, but the sword is aimed outward in defense. And I can't actually see the lady very well. There's so much hair, it covers all of her. Water pertains to emotion, so the next step of your spiritual journey is to tap into your inner self, your soul, your divine self, especially like divine feminine, or your inner I'm lacking a word for the moment. Underneath all, to deepen your feelings and your subconscious self is this part of you. It's like allowing it to rise forth and to defend yourself. All our emotions are like motions on the surface of a deep lake. So there's actually something happening deep below that makes the emotions and the ripples and waves. So for you, it is this lady with a sword. So all your emotions are her moving within you, rising up. So there is a need to defend yourself, to stand your ground, to point your sword at your enemies and to know them for who they are, and to say no and to be firm. You have it in you. Ah, is Sandy also Sandy? It says my fiance called him my Knight of Cups. Black hair though. But I may use a red hat. I'll ask him. Interesting. Well, you should let him defend you and help you. Sometimes we don't realize that we are not open to that. So that's what it's saying. Alright. Catherine Fisher is next. Next step on your spiritual path. I see an image of you, and there is a shackle on the right wrist pulling you back. The left hand holds something that's like a horn and like a flute. It's an instrument, yet I see you drinking from it, yet also blowing through it. So that's kind of an interesting supposition. So it's saying that there is something holding you back, restricting you from progress, that you need to free yourself from. I feel as though the object, horns and flutes, pertain to like divine inspiration, so taking it in, but also sounding out. So inviting in inspiration, asking for help from a higher power, and also taking it into yourself. Feeding yourself what is being offered to you in that sense. So those are the next things to be addressed. Let's check. You're welcome, Ramel. Just checking on the other foot real quick. The next one is Christina Williams. Next step on your spiritual journey. I get the sense from you of hunting. I see you on a horse racing forward with a lasso, but also with like some kind of object to allow you to see, standing like you're on the hunt for a bounty or something. So the next step on your path is to be determined and persistent, and I'm not sure what it is you're after, but to go after it with full gusto. Hunt it down, seize it, grab it. Sometimes it's like that. The next step of your spiritual path or finding knowledge is acquired by hunting it down and seizing it and capturing it with a lot of force. And I think that part of the point is that pursuit, that enthusiastic pursuit. So that is what is next for you, to throw yourself into it and go forth fully. Looks like I've gotten to all of the requests. If anyone else would like a mini reading, please comment your favorite color. The readings are to tell you what is the next step on your spiritual path. You're very welcome, everybody. I'll give it a moment for anyone else to make a request who would like to. Otherwise, we will be drawing the Q&A to a close. Also, if anyone else has any more questions about the topic or anything that has been brought up, you're welcome to still ask or to just comment as you would. Oh, there you go. I see you, Alex Knox. A more convenient place to practice meditation. Well, I guess it depends on what you're doing with meditation, because you can do it anywhere, especially if you're just developing awareness. Part of the point is just being where you are and being present and being aware of everything. And if you're trying to develop discipline, well, that's certainly a good way to do it too, is in the midst of great distraction. Especially if you're engaging in activities the mini readings are meant to answer what is the next step in your spiritual path, so I will read for you about that. How to develop a better way or system of energy in your path is a more complex subject than I think I can cover briefly during this Q&A. However, I invite you to contact my mentor, Eliza, who was on earlier, for more about that. Just catching up on all the comments. Oh, that's very interesting. Alright, Alex, I'm going to read for you next. The next step of your spiritual path. You know, that is a very grim image. I'm seeing an image of you holding a head, like a person's head, and burying it in the ground. I feel as though the head represents it's a very hostile object or energy, and it's like holding onto a grudge, rage, pertaining to someone towards whom there's a lot of anger. You're carrying it and them in a way with you, and it's suggesting that the next step is to bury that. Let it go. Give it to the earth. Leave it behind. It's like a poison. It's like the equivalent of like carrying a cursed object with you. That energy it's describing. Alex says he does martial arts. I'm not sure if that relates per se.
I think that there's a correlation there. What was the imagery that we got?
A decapitated head, like a war prize, and it being poisonous and burying it. That is the next step.
Okay. So what this tells me is that the decapitated head is reminiscent of a past burden of some kind, probably an individual who caused you harm. Its poisonous nature is the emotional or mental weight of you carrying that situation with you. Burying that would be a way of removing it from who you are. You need to get away from whatever this was and let it lay to rest. You don't need to carry this head with you anymore, this burden. You need to let it go. It's poisoning your growth.
So that is the next step for you. That concludes your reading. Alright, back to the main comments. Indeed. Christina says, yes, I just got chills from that reading. It is not very good, and it would be very good to lay it to rest. Alright, currently looks like I am through the requests. Again, there's still time to get a reading or to ask questions. You're welcome, Al. Alright, well, I think I will draw this to a close. If you would like to get into contact with me, visit my Facebook page, Lysander Xanthus. I also encourage you to visit the Facebook page for Freedom Dream Coaching, as well as visiting patreon.com/freedomdreamcoaching for more information about myself, Eliza Nanos, available content and teaching. Some content is free, some is not, and how you can become part of what we are developing and growing, and rewards you can receive in return for your support. All that information is on the Patreon, and if you enjoyed this live Q&A, I suggest you like and follow my page so that you will see more content like this and continue to receive information and so on about various things we're doing. And you're welcome. Thank you all for watching and joining us today. It looks like we have one more request on the watch party. I will do that real quick. Just kind of starting the goodbyes. So, Karina, Egra, what's the next step on your spiritual path? I seen an image of you with scissors, and there's like a light blue color around you, and there's like cutting at something in the air, and it's like the sense of like getting your fingers caught in the scissors and cutting yourself. The feeling I get from this image is that there is an inner distance or dissociation, because I don't see anything around you, and that you are desiring order or to kind of cut the parts of yourself off from yourself, like it as a form of self-improvement, but that you are really injuring yourself. And I think the next step is just to be aware of that and to reconsider the way you are responding to yourself, your emotions, parts of you, and get in touch with what's really going on and why it is you're trying to cut parts off of yourself from you. That's how I would take that. Christina asks, can you explain this 5D upgrade awakening from the 3D I keep reading about, or is this off subject? It is a bit off subject. I do see you message me, so I will get back to you. The short answer is that I feel like my worldview is, deviates a little too much to ascribe to that entirely. I don't see a question on the watch party. I'm looking at it right now. So I will message you after this, Christina. Free content like this is possible because of support from viewers like yourself. So if you would like to support us and our ability to create more content and resources for you guys to enable your spiritual growth, you can send a one-time contribution to the PayPal link in the description of this video, or to the email through PayPal that is on screen. There's no obligation. informing. Or another way to support us is to join us on Patreon through the monthly subscription. The lowest membership level is $1 a month, and it goes up from there, and you get different rewards according to your level. So I hope you'll check that out and decide to join us. MA, feel free to ask your questions. Just kind of cycling through the... Oh, there's 2 questions. You know, I'm looking and I just don't see them. Are you on the... I just don't see the question.
Karina is commenting, but I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a question.
She
there.
says, Karina says, thank you. Karina says, I'm bipolar, no meds, so I really try to find balance. I think it's just suggesting that your current way of doing that may be a bit self-injurious. It can be very tricky to find a way to cope. I would suggest perhaps considering seeing a counselor. However, there are a lot of coping mechanisms shared in cognitive behavioral therapy that can be very helpful. So it is difficult to deal with ourselves, but I find that grounding yourself and awareness are going to be important for you. What?
She has her own watch party going that is not connected to the
well,
one that I have. That's why.
Sorry, if there are other watch parties, I'm not watching them because I'm not aware of them. So if you want me to see your question, you have to comment on the main video. I am observing one watch party which was started by me. Or my fiance's account, rather. So they will have to, you'll either have to comment the link to that watch party or they'll have to comment on here because I can't.
I'm doing that right now.
Okay. So I will wait a minute.
Here we go. Sorry about that, MA. Didn't realize you had your own watch party going, but I've got you now.
Yeah, I don't automatically see the watch parties. It doesn't. Facebook doesn't tell me that there are some. The only one I'm watching is one that we started, so we know that it was there.
Right.
All right.
So if you start a watch party in the future, please just message one of us or let us know that you have it going so that no one gets ignored. We don't like to do that.
Yeah. That, or tell them that if they want me to, if you want me to see the comment, you have to comment on the main video. I'm not automatically told. Facebook doesn't do that. It doesn't connect the stuff.
It doesn't
So, hello everyone on this other watch party. I apologize. I did not know. Alright, so indeed there are 2. So, Sandra and Carrie. So I will read for Sandra first. The next step on your spiritual path. That is what the mini readings in this video are geared towards. I see an image of you facing a cabinet. And it's like you're peeking at some teeny little compartment. And there's like a black thing in there. And it's like it feels like a secret or something you're keeping to yourself. And it feels like something that's kind of... What's the feeling from it? The black thing is it's like a little ball of black soot, ash. And it's kind of a nasty little thing. And this cabinet is kind of full of things you're holding onto or hiding from other people or yourself. And that you have strong motivations for keeping these things hidden. However, I feel like the next step on your spiritual path would be to empty this cabinet, metaphorically speaking, and to clean it out, to clean yourself out, and to live more in alignment with your truth and to learn to release all the things you're holding onto or keeping to yourself. It certainly won't be easy, but that's the next step. It's especially focusing on this one thing in the middle. It feels a little bit like a secret malice towards someone or something like that. So that is something you'll have to explore, and that is the next step for you. Carry Dawn is next, the next step of your spiritual path. Connecting to your energy, I see a rippling like the surface of water and your reflection in it. And I see you drinking out of a cup. I feel as though the next step of your spiritual path is to be aware that your feelings distort your view of yourself. So the way that you see yourself, you need to know that it's being colored by your emotions and is not a genuine objective view of who you are, for better or for worse. The drink, I feel like it's like drinking in that emotion, like perpetuating your emotional state and that distortion in your perceptions. So I would consider what it is you're taking into yourself that's feeding that emotional state and that is coloring the way you see things, especially yourself. So that is the next step for you. Hope it helps. You're okay, MA, so yeah, that's how it works. Alright, yeah. So, thank you again to everyone who joined us. Karina says, smoking indica helps. Well, if you recall, the specific image I saw was saying that the thing you're using to cope with it is injurious to yourself and is causing you to dissociate. So it's suggesting to not do whatever it is you're doing, to be more explicit. You need to find another way. So grounding, being more present in reality and accepting yourself. You can't find a way to cope and control yourself if you are just escaping. All right. All right, carried on. Glad that was helpful. Yeah. So you need to be, Carrie, you need to be aware of how you're feeding that. Obviously, having a condition is difficult, but there are things we take into ourselves through the people we are around, what we're watching, things we put into ourselves that can make it worse and harder to deal with or make it easier. So just be aware of that. Alright, I'm drawing this to a close, so I won't be accepting any more requests. Again, thank you all. This is possible because of your support. I hope you will join us through our various links and support us either through just your being present and watching or through other ways. And I encourage you to check out my page for more like this. And I hope we will see you all again later. So thank you again. This has been a great Q&A session. And have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful solstice and happy holidays. See you later. Be blessed.